A powerful spiritual force pulsates all around us, offering energy and meaning to our daily lives. If we can meet the challenge of this force, our lives will expand in joy, peace, and fulfillment. The Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living and the ministry of Dr. Moira Foxe presents Living Ideas. The power of new thought based on the dynamic principles of science of mind as taught by Dr. Moira Foxe. These programs are presented in order that we encompass the mastery of well-directed faith based on the inner conviction that we are surrounded by an intelligent law which does unto each of us as we believe.
So, what calls you? That's the question we're going to be asking ourselves this week. What calls me? What is that thing that's always present and always calling me? Not necessarily always heard, but it's always there and it's always calling me. Life is always calling me to something or another. So the question today for all of us and during the week is, what calls me now, in this moment, at this time? What is that? Is what calls me that longing for something, whatever that longing is? Is it a longing for fame and fortune and prestige? Or what is it that calls me? Is it my pain that calls me, my sorrow that calls me, my joy that calls me, my destiny that calls me? What is it that calls me? Something is calling me. It always is. And you and I have to be aware of it, because it's not something that's going to stop. It's not something that's going to cease. There's always a calling going on within us since we were first called into life and living. And the call is always there. But of course, to hear it, we have to be able to listen. And one of the first invitations that was ever issued to all of us was, hear, hear, O Israel. And anywhere there's Israel that crops up in Scripture, you can substitute your own name, because Scriptures are about here and now, and they're about you in particular, and me in particular. So everywhere Israel crops up, I can substitute my own name. So hear, O Moira, the Lord is one. Hear, O Moira, the law is one. And within that hearing, there's something that's urging me, drawing me, beckoning me, summoning me to pay attention to it so that I can make a decision around it and respond to it. And it's always going to keep calling me until I do that. And so therefore, under the surface, always there's going to be, there's something else, there's something else, there's something else, there's something else, there's something else. There's something more, there's something more. Now this is the greatest of all times for us to be pondering this question, what calls me? Because it is a time of preparation and a time of calling. And when you read all the Christian scriptures all over the world, people are doing that now. They're all filled with the sense of longing and this sense of looking forward to, and this sense of being open and receptive to the coming of something, the coming of something. But for that something to come, I must draw it to me. And all of the songs are about, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel. Remember, your name is Israel in these situations. Come, come, come. Life, God, beauty, power, peace, joy. Come and ransom me from my captivity. What am I held captive by? Well, only each one of us can answer that question. What binds us? What imprisons us? What keeps us confined? What is that? Because whatever is calling me out of that kind of imprisonment, whatever that is. And so these are the ponderous days. These are the days in which we invite, come, 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 Emmanuel. Come, life that is within me. Come, life that lives me. And be present to me in a way that I can hear, in a way that I can respond to. And so provide me with whatever it takes for me to be able to listen and to hear. In Proverbs there is, it's not Proverbs actually, it's Psalm 95, and I think it's verse 8, it says, if today you hear his voice, harden not your heart. If today you hear his voice, harden not your heart. And there's another line that follows that that says, for he may not pass this way again. If today you hear his voice, harden not your heart, for he may not pass this way again. And so every single day of your life and mine, there's an opportunity for us to hear that voice. And it's the voice of the big, large, great life within us, wanting to live more of itself through us, that's always calling us, urging us, and summoning us, and beckoning us into a deeper and wider and higher experience of itself, of the moreness of itself, which is you and which is me. The thing about this call is, even though in all of the holy books everywhere, there's a time of year, for the Christians it's Advent time, but there is a time of year when you draw aside to examine your life and to look at what's going on in it and to mend and to fix and to take care of and to improve what needs to be improved of and to, you know, come higher and to repent and do all of that. Because you know that your life is worthy of a greater living than that. And so there's always a time in the year when you draw aside and you do that. And this time for Christians is Advent and Lent, you know. So it's a question of correcting your wrongs, as the song says. Correct your wrongs at this time and come into the sense of yourself of that which is precious and that which is worthy and that which is holy and that which is godly. And that's all you have to do to repent. That's all you have to do to change. That's all you have to do to be the best of yourself. Wake up and remember who you are in truth. Worthy, holy, you know. Something that is a magnificent emanation of the divine. That's what each one of us is. And that's what any of these times are calling us to. The waking up and remembering of that. And all the songs are talking about wake up from your slumber, wake up from your sleep. Come back into the awareness of the truth of your being. And know that there's some greatness in you and it needs to be expressed. And change your life, turn yourself around, not because you're afraid, not because you're in fear of hell or whatever that is, but because you recognize that the lover of your soul, the creator of your being within you, is calling you into a deeper, intimate relationship with itself. That's why. That's the only true reason why we would do that. To come into that awareness that there's a closeness and an intimacy and a presence that's available to us all of the time and is speaking to us all of the time from within us all of the time. And all it desires is a closer, deeper, intimate relationship with each one of us, and that love be returned. That love be returned. That's what it's about. It's not about anything else. And we cannot come to that in fear anyway, because fear stops us and fear blocks us. But this love, when we enter into it, casts out all of our fear. We are fearless ever after that, once we come into that awareness. Once we come into that awareness. So when we ask ourselves the question, what is calling me? This is a great time to do it, because we get so busy. We get so caught up and we become sometimes mindless because we're so busy. So what is calling us during this season as we prepare to celebrate? And so many of us are preparing to celebrate something or another. One feast or another. One great happening or another. But that ought not, of course, to be confined to any one part of the year. Every day gives us that opportunity. But we are people of habit, and we are people of seasons. And we like our seasons, and we're seasonal. So let's embrace the season that's upon us and be the best that we can be in it and take from it its best. And it's saying to us now, listen, listen, pay attention, listen. All of us need to know that there's something more always for us to unravel and to discover. And this call has been since time immemorial. Time immemorial. And it's only because it's a call to discover yourself, the truth of your being, that's all. Any call is. To discover more of yourself, the truth of your being. And again, as I said at class the other night, you know, it's not for any small reason that written over the temples, the very first temples, the temple of Delphi, it says, you know, man, know thyself. And you ever only hear that, but the end of the sentence is, man, know thyself, and then you will have discovered God. Man, know thyself, and then you will have discovered God. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's incredible. So there's no way you're going to discover God until you first discover yourself. So when is that on your agenda? Self-discovery. When is that on your agenda? I mean, have you blocked that in anywhere? Self-discovery amongst all of the activities and amongst all of the, you know, the entrances into your, you know, your schedules, wherever they are. Self-discovery, is there any place there for that? Because that's the most important thing and the reason why we're here. To discover ourselves and thus discover God. And then, of course, you cannot but see God everywhere present once you do that. There's nothing else. There is only that thing called life, called the one, called God. And it's in everything and it's in everyone. And once you discover it within yourself, you do discover it in everything and in everyone, no matter what. You're able to go beyond the appearances and see the truth and the essence of each thing and each one. It's an incredible, incredible, incredible discovery. An amazing remembering of ourselves. And that's what we're called to every day of our lives. But before we get to that, we must first discover what it is we are allowing to call us. What is it that we are allowing to call us, to take our focus, to take up all our attention, to take up our fascination, and so on? What is that? There may be several things that fascinate us and call us and draw us and summon us. And whatever those things are, we have to clear them out of the way before we can come to discovering the truth of what is calling us back to ourselves. And the song never ceases. And it's always a joyful thing. There's nothing that is not joyful about life or God or infinite being or the one, beauty and grace and power on the spiritual side of life. It's always a joy. And that is why usually all the calling throughout the whole of life and living and the world is done in many musical ways, bells and trumpets and conch shells and so on. They all call us higher, higher in spiritual ceremony. They all call us higher. Enter God's house singing and dancing in joy, we are told. Bells are very big in the call to come higher. The tinkling of a bell, the sounding of a shell, and so on, calling us higher. The medulla in the minaret calling everybody to prayer 5 times a day. How interesting and fascinating that is. Must be a wonderful thing to hear 5 times a day somebody calling us higher, somebody calling us to prayer. I used to love to hear the Angelus bell when I was a child. The Angelus bells would ring all over the city, at 6 o'clock in the morning and 12 noon and 6 o'clock in the evening, calling us to prayer, calling us to prayer. And you'd be in the bus and you'd be on the streets and you'd see people blessing themselves as soon as they heard the bell. And they'd pray. Isn't that a wonderful thing? You know? And in the convent, 5 times, 6 times a day, a bell would ring and you were called to prayer. And I love that, because it reminds you there's something more than what you're just doing going on as well, alongside of what it is that you're doing. And so the thing about this call is, when the lover calls, when the Creator calls, when that amazing thing tingles in your soul, it's not for you to do anything. Isn't that amazing? It's not a bell that's ringing to call you to do something. It's a bell that's ringing, that's calling you to remember how deeply and greatly you are loved, and how the lover wants you in deep, intimate, loving relationship with itself. That's what it's about. During those convent years, when that bell would ring, we had to stop everything we were doing and simply be consciously in the presence of the lover of our souls. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. If people ask me, what do I miss? It's those kinds of little things that I miss at the retreat times and some of those things, not anything else. And it's good to be reminded. It's good to be reminded. I mean, some religions, on the hour, they're invited at the beginning of every hour to just pause for a moment and acknowledge something greater than themselves. I think that's a great good thing. Now, we have all these digital gadgets going on with us these days, and we can easily set them to beep at an hour. And just for us to just go, take a deep breath, that's all. Just take a deep breath and know that I'm breathing in something greater than myself, and that something greater than myself is breathing through me. What a beautiful thing that is. So what calls us through the day? Is it a desire for chocolate or for food or for dinner or for whatever it is? There has to be more than that calls us. There has to be. And even when we get hungry, if we could associate that hunger with the hunger in our soul for a deeper relationship with our source, that would be a beautiful thing. You know, twosies are better than onesies and things like that. So along with the idea that I'm hungry now and it's time to eat, I remind myself that I can do that because of the power of the presence that provides my good, and how grateful I am that I can go and eat food now, when most of the people in the world cannot eat when they're hungry. Most of the people in the world cannot go eat when they are hungry. And so whatever that is that's going to show up in you as that calling, because there's a longing within us, a longing within us, a yearning within us that is never satisfied until we are finally united and come into communion with the source of our being. And that's called enlightenment, or whatever else you want to call it. But until that happens, there's always going to be that river of longing running through us that nothing and no one can satisfy in the outer world. It's only something that can be satisfied from within ourselves. So what is calling us is life's desire for each one of us to live from the inside out, to live from within out, and not the opposite, to live from within out. And that is why so many of us do what we can do to respond to that call. And we used to think that it's only nuns and monks and priests that respond to this call by drawing aside and entering into what we call religious life. Not at all. Every single one of us has that same calling. Every single one of us has that same urge. And all of us can satisfy it. Each and every one of us is capable of satisfying it, simply by being open and receptive and saying yes to the invitation, because it is. The calling is always an invitation. But before we get to that sacredness and that awareness and that depth, we have to look at the actual things that do call our attention, call us throughout our day, and see if we want to exchange some of that for something else. And make sure that whatever it is that is calling us is providing an opportunity for us to go higher, to go deeper, to embrace the more of ourselves, so that we get to the point in our lives when we know who we are. And in knowing who we are, we can honor ourselves and love ourselves and respect ourselves, because we know that God dwells in us as us. And if I can know that about myself, I can certainly know it about you. And if I can honor myself, I can honor you. If I can love myself, I can love you. If I can respect myself, I can respect you, because I know the indwellingness of Spirit in each and every soul and in every living thing. And that's what this season is all about. Listening, hearing, and as my mother would say, heeding. It's not enough to hear. We have to heed. We have to respond. And I tell you, there's nothing sweeter. There's nothing sweeter than coming into that awareness that you can relax, you can release, you can let go, no matter how you are, what the conditions are, how you're feeling, doesn't matter at all. If you can just go to that point where you can release, relax, and let yourself go, and know that no matter what seems to be the case, it's all an illusion anyway. And there's something bigger and greater and more awesomely wonderful happening in the midst of all of the chaos or whatever. And it's happening within you. Within you. Not just around you and about you, but it's happening within you. And if you and I can just lean into it and allow it and accept it and relax into it, all the rest clears up. All the rest clears up and all the rest goes away. And you're just left with that solid, solid remembrance of the truth of who and what you are and what it is that lives in you, moves in you, resides in you, has its being in you, that is you, truly you, the real you, the truth of you. Is that not amazing? That is so amazing. It knocks my socks off every time I really come to it. Every time I really come to it, it really does. I get so giddy with myself, I don't know what to do with myself. You know, so I do nothing. I just relax into it and enjoy it. And I'm knowing that that's what you can do too. And you'll do it in your own way. So this week I'm asking you to join me in paying attention to what it is that is calling you, that beckons you, that draws your attention, attracts your focus, and summons your fascination. Will you do that with me this week? Yes. And then we're going to change whatever we think needs to change with regard to focus in all of that, so that we can indeed start to live the lives that we are here to live, and not always find life such a drag, such a chore, such a heavy thing at times, and so on. It's not that at all. It's not meant to be that at all. And if you do that for yourself, your body's going to perk up and get into the program with you and come along with you and allow itself to feel that beautiful rising life in itself. And you will enjoy a greater sense of bodily being as well as spiritual being. This is what I'm knowing for each and every one of us, that we're ready for that to happen, and that we're listening, that we're hearing, and that we're heeding and responding. And so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at RedondoCSL.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.